Hello everybody, Abyssal Tech here, and here I'm kind of trying to do something a little different. So, over on the Grim Reapers channel, great group of guys like to fly planes, they've been doing War on the Sea 1v1 capital ship tournaments. Basically, they throw two different battleships up against one another until one of them destroys the other. Pretty fun videos, always nice to see kind of a who would win. However, one thing that they have mentioned in their videos is they are not very familiar with warships in general. They think they're cool, because they are, but they don't really know as much as they might like. So I figure, since I know entirely too much about a lot of warships, I might talk about these and cover some things. So we're going to start with the first video I'm going to cover is the Yamato versus the Tennessee fight. So let's hop over to it. So here we have USS Tennessee. Tennessee class super dreadnought. So she was the last of the 14-inch standard type battleships. So you might see that term come up when talking about American ships, especially of the early 1900s. So standard type battleships term basically came around because the Navy wanted battleships, but Congress didn't want to give them money. So any formation of battleships would, unlike in the Royal Navy, which built 4, 5, 6 ships in a class, the U.S. Navy was only getting 2 ships. So any kind of squadron level formations would likely have at least 2, 3, maybe even 4 different classes of battleship. So rather than deal with the headache of having that ships with very different handling speeds and handling characteristics in a formation, they basically just made all of their battleships have the same speed and handling. So 21 knots and a very similar turn rate. So if you ever wonder why, say you have 1920s US ships where, like Queen Colorado, she does 21 knots, Queen Elizabeth does like 24, 26 knots, even though they're contemporaries, that's why. Because Colorado is likely to there was a fair chance it could find itself in a squadron with the New York, which was a much older ship. So, yeah. And because the Navy was capped their speed, they actually could do some fun new things with the power plants. So this is Tennessee in its post-Pearl. Unlike the one that you see in the video, this is Tennessee in its post-Pearl Harbor refit configuration. So Tennessee was at Pearl. She took relatively little damage compared to some of the other ships, including her sister, California. In fact, they list only one ship in the class here because I'd have to look it up, but I'm fairly sure California is still in the mud of Pearl at the point where Guadalcanal took place, and that's generally the time frame for War on the Sea. So, see here, she's got her 5-inch 38 twins. She's got your quad 40mm Bofors right there. So, an interesting thing about the Tennessee class that you don't see really in any other navies is she uses turbo electric drive. So the boilers make the steam spins the turbines turn a generator that powers the electrical bus, and then completely detached you have electric motors that turn the screws. So this has some pretty big advantages. Is basically you could put the engines literally anywhere inside your ship, wherever it's they're most well protected, and then you put your motors even back here. So you're not running steam lines or propeller shafts past your turrets and magazines. You're just running electrical cables. keeps things a little simpler. I believe there was one Japanese battleship, the Fuso, that actually had some issues with her center magazine because the steam lines ran by the magazine, and it was a touch warmer than they were comfortable with in there. So, another big advantage with turbo electric drive is the ability to relatively instantaneously change the speed and direction of your propellers. So you could be going all ahead full, which this has actually happened in an exercise. One of the ships, she was going all ahead full, a destroyer cut too close in front of her. She was able to throw her screws full reverse instantly instead of having to slow down, stop the shaft, and then throw things into reverse, and then immediately go back to full to keep from being rear-ended by the ship behind her. Another time during the war, one ship threw the propellers on one side into a head flank, and the other side to back emergency along with her rudder to whip her bow around to avoid a torpedo. So, very useful thing. Very nice looking ship. Unfortunately, she's not really designed to take this thing on. So here's Yamato in her as design configuration. So not similar to what you actually see. So here we have, as they mentioned in the video, the quad, the 4 6-inch triple 6-inch mounts. So these two side mounts will very quickly be replaced in design with additional anti-aircraft guns. So she looks like we're kind of used to here. So I don't believe she ever actually operationally deployed with those two side 6-inch mounts. In fact, Yamato barely deployed at all. She is the largest battleship ever built, but by quite a bit. And even the design of her violated so many treaties that the Japanese were a part of. So she was designed and built in great secrecy. In fact, most of what we know about the Yamatos did not come out until after the war was already over. And even then, we don't know everything. The Japanese destroyed a great deal because she broke so many treaties that the Japanese were a part of before the war. They destroyed a lot of the documentation about the class. So, there were 3 ships in the class: Yamato, Musashi, and Shinano. Shinano was a modified design that was actually converted into an aircraft carrier. So, you could actually, Shinano, part of her actually is in the United States, I believe in Annapolis, the armor plate for the front of her turrets that they went and shot point blank with the 16-inch 50 cal round from an Iowa class battleship. So makes very sizable armor plate, very sizable hull. You should go check it out if you're ever in the area. Well, anyway, on to the video.
Hello, valued viewers. Doesn't do crew, doesn't do a lot of this stuff.
So, unfortunately,
45.
This was probably
the
worst. Mute these guys. Turn these guys down here. Mute them. Unfortunately, this was probably the worst matchup in their entire series. And it's probably because nothing in their lineup is actually designed to go up against Yamato. No battleship ever built was designed to go up against Yamato. Because, like I said, no one knew the specs of Yamato until pretty much she was already on the bottom. So, she, on the other hand, was designed basically because the Japanese assumed they were going to be numerically inferior to whatever opponent they were facing. So Yamato and Musashi were designed to fight multiple treaty-type battleships and destroy them utterly. This includes ships like the Tennessee. Yamato was designed to kill her. Whereas the 14-inch guns on the Tennessee, they aren't designed for this. The only chance Tennessee would have had in this fight was full speed, right at Yamato, close the range. Inside of 14,000 yards is where her guns have a chance of starting to get through Yamato's armor belt. The deck armor, no, they ain't touching that. But Yamato's guns could punch right through Tennessee's armor throughout the entirety of this engagement. Tennessee basically might as well not have even been armored, as far as this goes. And you kind of see it here with Tennessee. Let's see, where is this? And very quickly into the engagement, like only a few minutes. Unfortunately, they weren't watching it. Tennessee suffers a magazine hit. Not sure if it was through the side, through the belt, through the deck, whatever. But, yeah. So, while War in the Sea does not model this with the magazines being full of ammunition like they were, the entire back half of this ship should have been completely blown off. Like, this isn't... they don't... Magazine, I believe a magazine with even one shell in it will blow up just as well as a magazine that's full. Kind of a limitation of the game, but anyway. Yeah, no, that blast would have just gutted the entire interior. She was dead with that one hit a few minutes in. And that's probably going to be the result of the Yamato versus anything in this series here. The only ship that really stands a chance against Yamato is Iowa. Richelieu and Vanguard probably can put up a fight, but 16-inch 50 cal rounds firing super heavy shells, they're the only thing that can reliably punch through Yamato's armor at range. So, anyway, that's been a quick breakdown of this video. Thanks for watching. I'm going to try and tag the Grim Reaper channel in my video description. Definitely go check them out. They're pretty fun too. They do a fun fly-along events a lot. So, good guys, good guys.